This is Parenting for the Everyday, a podcast dedicated to meeting parents in the trenches of parenthood. We explore how our faith fits into our parenting. With the help of our guests, we are seeking practical tips on how the gospel can speak into our day-to-day parenting. From the easy stuff to the hard stuff, we want to talk about it all. This is Parenting for the Everyday. I'm Becca Alvarez.
And I'm Holly Dyke-Andrew.
And I am so excited about this episode. Today, we are actually talking about generational parenting gaps. And we have in the studio my lovely and wonderful mother. Mom, will you introduce yourself?
Sure. I am Karen Coffey. I'm actually married to Joe Coffey. We have 3 adult children and 6 grandchildren.
And this episode really came out of a very funny Instagram video that I sent my mom that just talked about all the different things that are different about millennial parents and baby boomer parents. And although the video itself was super, super funny, there were so many relatable things in it that made us think about it and be like, oh my gosh, we should actually have this on a podcast, because although there can be some really funny differences, there can also be some differences that can create chasms between relationship and even hurt feelings. And so feeling like I am a relatively new mother. I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. And something that I've always appreciated about my mom as I went through a lot of new things and trying out new strategies is that she was so supportive and worked hard to understand my perspective instead of just telling me how things should go and imposing her mothering on me. She let me do it on my own and try to understand the reasons I was doing things, which I really appreciated. So let's dive on in.
I know. I need all these notes so that when I become a grandma, I can do it right. So Karen, I'm taking notes. I'm taking notes on what you said.
It'll just come naturally, Holly.
Okay, Mom, what do you think are the biggest differences in parenting approaches between our generation and your generation?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'm so honored to be here. As I said, I think in another podcast, I love being a mom and I love being a grandmother and I love the way those two work together. And part of my heart, I think, is to make sure that those two worlds continue to work together. Mm-hmm. So some of the things that I have recognized that are so different, of course, everybody knows social media is different. When I had my 3 kids, we literally brought Jeremy home in like a Moses basket and put the seatbelt over it.
Okay.
So
he's real sturdy.
He is real sturdy. And so equipment is number one. It's so different. The sound machines, the blankets, the bags. I always call her weighted sack a bag. What are some of the cameras? Holy smokes.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Cameras everywhere. We had none of those things and weren't even required to have a car seat. So for me, it's completely different. Also, social media for you guys is kind of your teacher, if you will. Mm-hmm. For me, it was my group of friends. So if my group of friends use cloth diapers, then I use cloth diapers, which I did. If
really?
Yeah,
she sure did.
Holy smokes! So glad they don't do that.
Okay,
anymore.
I was gonna say, would you recommend?
No.
Okay,
great. Hard pass.
No, hard pass. Yeah. So many differences, and I guess that's where my heart was, just to talk about this, because I think this is your time to be moms, and this is your culture. And as a boomer, as you said, I want to learn from you. Mm-hmm. And I want to share maybe what I have, but I want to learn from you and allow you to have the opportunities I had as a mother.
And something that we talked about, Mom, just to kind of in preparation for this episode, is that although social media is our tool, it gives us a lot of different kind of tools in that toolbox. But on the other side of things, you can always see something that someone's doing differently and make you really insecure as a mom too. And so like everything, it needs to be in a balance of how you're learning and who you're looking at and comparing and all of that. Something that I thought of in this question of a big difference is I often think about my mom when I'm nursing, which kind of sounds weird, but whenever I'm nursing my son, I always have my phone because holy cow, I would be so bored if I didn't. And something that I realized one of the times is that when I do put it down and I just focus on him and I focus on his head and his face and his features, I feel so much more connected. And I always think about my mom because I feel like she was such a good mom at being connected with us and so intentional. And she was always just there, so present. She wasn't distracted. And one of the things about my generation is that we have constant distractions. We have handheld distractions. We have distractions mounted on our walls. We have distractions with people. And so there are times that I have to be really intentional to not be a distracted parent. And that would be an aspect of a baby boomer parent that I am envious of, is that you were so good at not being distracted.
So the first time I had the twins, and Jimmy and I were going away, and they were like 6 months old, and I was going to leave them with my parents for the weekend, the twins and Cam, all three of them, for the first time. And I came with a really long list of how to take care of the children and bags of things that they would need to take care of the children. And my dad was like, I had 3 kids and I didn't need any of this. I got this, you can go. I was like, what? How are they going to sleep without this blanket, this exact blanket? And I'm thankful my parents do a great job of doing it the way that I've asked them to do it. But yeah, there is totally a gap of, hey, we did it this way. We don't need all the ways that you did it. And they turned out just fine. And that could, in some cases, probably cause some tension. What do you think the older is it okay if I say older generations? Is that the right word? The boomer generation?
The
wiser generation?
Boomer.
Okay, great.
Boomer. Yeah.
What are some misconceptions or thoughts that maybe the boomer generation would have about more modern parenting styles that maybe are true or not true, but let's kind of talk through some of them.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, probably what you said. We did it. You guys are healthy. Why not do it our way?
Fine.
Right?
Fine.
Yeah. But I think that it's so important to recognize that every generation has their own specific needs and way of doing things, and like the allergies and the different creams and everything that you use. I think our life was simpler, and plus, if you just clear away all the stuff, this is your time to be a parent. And I don't want to live vicariously through your parenting, because I did my parenting. And now my job as a grandparent or continuing to be a parent is to support you and make you feel like that I have your back. And I think sometimes there can be a little bit of a competition, or like you said, even hurt feelings maybe. Well, I didn't do that, or I had structured bedtime, or I did this, or I did that. And it almost needs to be a conversation. We say, yes, and I'm grateful for that, but this is what my husband and I have chosen to do.
Yeah, because the notion of saying we're doing it different means your way wasn't good enough.
Right. Exactly. And of course, our way was right.
Obviously.
Of course. But I think being open to say, you know what, things have changed, and there's so much more knowledge out there. And of course, I think I'm unique in that I really like to learn, and I'm always looking for answers to things. And Becca's been great about, and we've had a couple little things that I've just asked her questions about, and she's been good about saying, yeah, this is why we're doing that. And my other kids made other choices, and I just like learning the differences.
And would you say those questions offend you, Beck?
No, but mostly in the way that she does them. So I would say something that caught me off guard as a new mom is how insecure I was. I thought because I was a babysitter, I always worked with kids. I thought I was going to come into motherhood with this confidence of I know what I'm doing. I brought that baby home from the hospital, and was terrified and felt like every choice I was making wasn't the right choice because there was another one somewhere on social media that they were making a different choice. And so I had a lot of insecurity, and my mom was really good at supporting the choices that I did make. So it gave me more and more confidence. And so by the time we got to one of the things that she's talking about is something that worked for my kids was baby-led weaning, which is a little bit of a newer way of doing things. And so I always gave my kids whole foods. They maybe had like a handful of purees, but that's about it. Something about baby-led weaning is there's quite a bit of gagging in it involved and a lot of choking, mostly because it teaches them how to use their gag reflex. So it's supposed to be a part of it, but it is alarming for people that aren't prepared for it. And so that is something that my mom was so good about is being very alarmed about the situation, but asking like, hey, so
are we okay?
I can picture it, right? Ezekiel's choking, and you're like, hey, so
and I'm like, he's making noises. We're fine. Air's getting in there.
Go?
But she was so good at trying to learn and looking at the books that I had and knowing that I think really understanding like the foundation of our concern is the same. We both care about these children. We just have different ways of going about it. It wasn't out of negligence. It was out of really wanting them to have the correct tools. And so I think always having that foundation has been really helpful. So it has opened up more questions on both sides. The other thing that is so helpful is I can handle a situation with my child and feel really, really, really secure about then asking my mom, like, how would you have done that differently? I want to learn from you because I admire you and I admire the way that you parented. And so having kind of a 2-lane road with that of knowing when I want to ask questions, and she's really good at not just imposing advice when I'm not asking questions.
Yeah. I think that's really important to be able to say, hey, how would you do this? And for you to maybe wait to be asked.
Right.
Is that what you're saying?
Totally.
Like you would wait.
Yes.
You wouldn't just be like, okay, I saw you do this. This is how I would do it. Yeah.
Right. Yes.
Be different. So one of the things, Beck, that you mentioned at the beginning was the fact that maybe the way that the boomer generation parented had less distractions. What are some other things and like values and lessons that because we don't want to just discount, like, oh, we're doing everything different. There's nothing there. What are some other things that maybe we could pull, or that you even say like, hey, here's something that I feel like I did really well that we could pull into like modern parenting?
Yeah, that's a great question. I want to give a little plug for our huddle for grandparents at the church. That has been a great resource, and it's a great way for grandparents to get together, because even as you guys are parenting for the first time, we're grandparenting for the first time, and so it has to be, like you said, I love that 2-way street where everybody's learning and we have to be patient and open with each other. I think one of the things that was really big in our generation, us boomers, was etiquette.
Oh,
so I come with representatives of other grandmas that
would like to see more manners in the children.
Yeah. So when I grew up, like my parents didn't send us to etiquette school or charm school, but a lot of my friends went. And you go, you dress up, you learn how to set a table, you learn what all the forks are, and above all, you say please and thank you.
Oh, yeah.
And just looking at it, oh, yeah, please and thank you. But I think what it teaches is respect. I think it teaches that there's more to my life, or I owe someone else for the things that I have, and I'm not entitled to that. So it's a simple thing, please and thank you, but I think it teaches a depth to the kids. And so that's one of the things that it's not lost, but I don't think it is as strong.
It's not as emphasized.
Right.
As I think it used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I think I would say respect in general.
Yeah. True.
That's like, I feel like something that is maybe not a priority for like more modern parenting, where it was like when my parents were parenting, and some of that is lost, in the way that kids respond to adults and authority in situations. So I think that's another one.
Yeah, and even just that goes into something maybe a little bit deeper, as far as sometimes boomers are more stereotyped to kind of rule with an iron fist, that what they say goes, and that's going to be their punishment style and their parenting style. And a lot of millennial parents almost went the exact opposite and went to very like, I validate your feelings, I want to be gentle with you. And when you need a balance. We are always talking about balance on this podcast, but I think that you really need a balance in this case, because when you go all gentle and all soft, and what your voice matters and your choice matters, and although that could be true, it can be true within structure of respect. And I think that's where we're struggling to find kind of that middle ground.
Yeah. So I feel like part of the reason that parenting has changed, or that life changes, is because we learn more. You were saying that earlier. And so mental health has been something that we have learned a lot more, and we're still learning about, that maybe in the time of the boomer parenting, that wasn't as much, I don't want to say it was a priority. I just think people didn't know like about it. And so how would you say like that mental health plays a role in parenting today? Like how would you say it differs from how you did it, Karen, to how you're doing it back? Like, let's talk through that big one.
That is a big one.
That is a big one. Well, first of all, I think that you were probably unique in the sense that mental health has always been so important to you.
Because that is like, you've also had a heart for that. Yeah.
So if we do more of just the stereotype of a boomer parent, or even your parents.
Right.
Because then that would be a big difference between the next generation up and our generation.
Yeah, I think if I could speak to that, I would say probably when I grew up, stop crying, or I'll give you something to cry about, or you just kind of dealt with you didn't know your emotions were valid or valuable. You just kind of dealt with whatever was going on, and I think now we know how damaging that is, and how important it is to teach children it's okay to have emotions. This is what your emotions look like, and this is how you handle anger. This is how you handle sadness, and go specifically to those things. But I think in the heat of the moment, it's hard to think about all those things, all at once, and the anger or the panic or whatever you're dealing with. It's kind of easier to go the easy way and try to placate that and not deal with mental health piece.
Yeah, and I think that the caution towards kind of the millennial parenting style is, although it doesn't look the same as the children should be seen and not heard, it's almost like now the exact opposite of like, you should have the loudest children there because it means they have a really good attachment. And I think there's probably some truth in there, maybe, but but you have to figure out how to validate emotion while also providing an appropriate response. You can't just go to all validation and let the emotions run wild, because no one's actually learning the coping then. And you can't shut down the emotion and not give any coping. And so it's, again, kind of trying to find the in-between of being able to stay in an uncomfortable moment with your child, not just placate to them and let them get whatever they want because they're throwing a big fit, but also being able to validate and then give a tool of how they can calm down, or how they can best feel this emotion and express it in a way that doesn't mean they're falling apart in Target and now you're just throwing chocolate cake at them so that they're quiet.
That feels like it would work for me. So
it is complicated, though, because another thing is you don't want to label them, or you don't want to make excuses.
They're anxious.
They're
an anxious child.
They don't handle this well. So we need to do something quickly. Because then again, what we're trying to do is teach and strengthen and learn how to use those coping skills. And I think as parents, there's that delicate line of letting them do it on their own and kind of helping along. And grandparents, it's even more delicate.
Well, so that was going to be my next question. Like in speaking to grandparents or even relationships with grandparents, when you have grandparents who are active caregivers, but who are not able to, quite be as gracious to styles of parenting that were different from what they've known, that can cause some tension. How would you suggest kind of navigating that situation?
Great question. Yeah, I think the first thing I would do is not do it in the moment. You remember that with teenagers, you don't want to call them out in the moment, but wait till things have calmed down. And I think that's true too. If we had done something and Beck was upset about it, I would want her to tell me, and Joe. But I would maybe not in the middle of a family gathering or maybe when the kids were around, but find a time and say, hey, we want to talk to you about something. But on the flip side, sometimes we as boomers have, maybe input or something, concerns. And I think the first thing I would do if I had a concern, again, not say anything in the midst of a family gathering. I personally would talk to Joe because he helps me think through emotional things and see whether I was seeing it as I was, or he always just has a really good perspective and he understands me well. So I would run it by him. And then I think I would do the same in saying, hey, I haven't come to the best plan for this, but I think I would maybe, depending on the issue, talk to our bio first and then bring the in-law in if need be. But just say, hey, we just wanted to talk to you about something. Now, there are situations that maybe we would feel stronger about. And one way I thought about prior to getting together today was to think about whether it's a principle or a preference.
That's actually just what I was going to ask you. I was like, how do you pick?
Yeah.
Because it can't be everything you disagree with.
No. And as a family, you guys get to decide what your values are, how you want to live, but as parents who have lived a little bit longer, there are some guiding principles. And of course, the Bible would be my number one principle maker. But is their behavior healthy? Physically, spiritually, emotionally, socially, would be some principles that I would perhaps be willing to take a risk and talk about if I felt like something unhealthy was happening.
Yeah.
Or being taught.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that is such a tricky situation. It's a tricky topic because you're trying to preserve your relationship with your child and also preserve their relationship with their child. So there's
their spouse.
And there's a waterfall kind of effect there. But I think being so sensitive and again, going back to that foundation, the foundation of it all is that we all care about these children, and we all want the best for them. And it's so easy to take things personally. I think as the mother or the grandparent, mother or father or the grandparent, and I think we have to take ourselves out of it and know that it's not necessarily a personal attack. It is a concern or it is advice, and try for both sides to be more flexible about receiving it.
Yeah, I really like that verse in 3 John. It's verse 4, I think, that says, I have no greater joy than my children follow the truth. And I think that's the heart of the issue is the principle going to lead them into a way where they will know the truth?
Yeah. And if they let their kids choke as they eat on the way, that's okay. That's okay.
I did struggle. We had one of those little grinders, and we would just grind whatever we were having. And to her credit, Ezekiel would not eat until
Correct.
she did this. So I validate that. I think it was the right thing, but holy smokes, there were times where I went, is he okay? Is he okay? Okay, tell me about this. What's the background of the, But see, we can talk about it, and she can help me understand, and she understands my worried heart.
And I do want to take a minute just right there because of our relationship and the foundation of our relationship, we have the ability to have that. I think it is much more difficult if you don't have that relationship to impose advice, especially on a new parent. It's very difficult to take that well. Because it doesn't feel like you have the caring foundation of, who I am, my heart. And so I know this is just coming from a caring place. I think when it is something coming from someone that maybe doesn't have that same foundation, it can be very, very difficult to take.
Yeah. Guys, it's been so fun hanging out with you guys and getting a little glimpse into your relationship and how it works. And I think it's really cool to see the way that you have loved Becca and the kids. I feel like that has given you freedom to kind of find your own as a mother, but then also feel fully loved and fully supported.
And I think just made me such a better mother. I think that grandparents' role is so important, and it just enriches children's lives. And I think if you can have that in your life, it can be an amazing thing, but it takes movement from the grandparent and the parent to bridge that gap.
Well said.
Karen, thanks for coming on and chatting with us and kind of breaking down some of these generational differences that we have. Yeah, that's what we'll use. So this has been Parenting for the Everyday. Tune in next time.